This Val-Con video is powered by GTX Server Hosting, the best way to run your Valheim server. With lightning-fast performance, mod support, and 24/7 reliability, your adventures never have to lag.
All right. Hey, everybody. Hey, Azumatt. Azumatt, you've been on my short list for doing an interview on the podcast for a long time, but you're so busy. I'm so busy. We haven't coordinated yet. We got to make that happen.
For sure. That sounds good.
So today we're talking about creating custom worlds, and I'm not going to introduce everybody here. There's only one that we need to introduce because y'all have been introduced before. JPValheim is on our hosting team. Azumatt was introduced in the last panel. Actually, two people, Dhakhar and LitGirl. Let me go to Dhakhar real quick first. Dhakhar, how are you doing?
I'm very well, my friend. How are you?
I'm excellent. I mean, I have like this extra burst of energy after watching that video again. I must have seen that video like 20 times. So can you just tell everybody just briefly, because since you haven't been introduced yet to who you are and just sort of like what got you into Valheim and then what direction you went, just like quickly. I'll give you like 2 minutes. That's it. I'm going to cut you off after that.
Okay, I'll hold you to it. Before Valheim, the most similar game I played was a game called Space Engineers, which has a lot of building and contraption creation in it. And so when I saw Valheim, I was immediately drawn to it for that side of things. But then I really enjoyed the build system, but fell in love with the game as well. So then I sunk several hundred hours into it and played all that sort of side of things. And then when I'd beaten all the content that was available at the time, I wanted to do creative building. And I kind of fell into a black hole at that point. Really loved the creative building, started exploring mods for it. And that has led to bigger and bigger projects with map creation. And now some expand world scripting is my latest adventure.
Yeah. Awesome. So for the other panelists here, if you guys do have your script open, we're going to be going through that a little bit. And if you could help me out, just stick your name on a couple of those questions. We have a whole lot of cool questions. We'll only be able to get to so many of them. You stick your name at the end, you'll see on there Azumatt and Stone have done that. So as soon as I see your names pop up on a question, I will ask you that question. But before we get to that, I see LitGirl down there. And LitGirl, can you just tell everybody what got you into Valheim? And if you're a streamer, right? So tell us what you like to do on your streams.
Oh dear.
Briefly, just like a couple of your favorites.
We're like a very adult stream, so shan't tell you much about that part. But what got me to Valheim was my brother. We played a lot of survival crafters like Project Zomboid, Some Days to Die, and a lot of pew pew games like Battlefield. So we were looking for something that was a fun mix of like PvP with community play. And while we rage shrimped at that time when your bodies could sink in the water and we lost everything.
Yep.
8 months later, I came back, he didn't, and I found streaming and all that stuff. And I realized what you could do with the building in this game. And I've been a huge fan ever since.
So were you streaming before Valheim?
No.
So Valheim got you hooked on making content.
I had no idea what you could do with it. And I saw like Ariandor stream. I saw Huldra stream. And I was like, you can stream this game. You can do stuff with that. And it literally blew my mind what you could do with this game.
Yeah.
Never have I ever played a game that has so much to it.
Yeah. Well, that's of all the games out there, this is one of those few games that even with the limited tools they gave us, we could still do things that you can't do in most games. And then modders came and they gave us so many more tools and made it amazing. So let's talk about creating custom worlds. We saw one there that Dhakhar did with who was the other one you worked with, Dhakhar, on that?
With 9 Bytes.
Yes, 9 Bytes. Yes. Obviously that video is awesome. But I'm going to jump to Azumatt. So which tools and mods have been invaluable for your world building?
Anything and everything. I say Jere or something like that, but it's Jir or Jere. Every single mod that he makes, he is basically he's replacing everything that exists. You know,
He
I
is.
mean, he's got a multitude of tools that are absolutely invaluable, server side, cross-play compatible, things that, you know, are similar to plan build, but like can integrate with it and do similar things. You know, invaluable placement with, so to give examples, Infinity Hammer,
Yes.
delete anything, add anything, blueprint anything, do whatever you need to do, rotate it, move it around, similar to like perfect placement, gizmo, things like that. You can, you know, shift things around. He's got expand world prefabs, which is relatively new, but that allows a lot of like custom scripting, a lot of things that are server side that you can really knock out some pretty unique stuff without having to download like a whole multitude of mods, you know. And he's very on top of updates. He's probably the most knowledgeable when it comes to Valheim code. So if anything breaks, you're almost guaranteed to get a fix or something of the nature of like, hey, just use this mod that I made that does the same thing, or, you know, might be a good replacement for that. And he's very modest about it. So a lot of his stuff, and VNEI specifically, so you can see and search and look through everything that does exist, creatures, rocks, anything that a mod adds, stuff like that. I think those are core to building a successful and very unique world.
Yeah. I have a little feather in my cap because way back in the day, I'd always bug Yuri about that. I'd say, Yuri, I need to be able to do this in game, and Iron Gate won't let me do it. He's like, well, let's see about that. You know, and then I was like, Yuri, I want a magic hammer to be able to do everything, you know, instead of typing in those console commands. And he said, okay, let's do it. And then he was like, what should we call it? And I said, Infinity Hammer, feather in my cap. I got to name that one. Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Let's see. Let me jump to, let's see. Oh, the Stone Prophet and Dhakhar, you guys are both interested in this one. So let's start with you, Stone. Any funny stories of players interacting with your world in unexpected ways?
Stone is.
Oh, Stone's not here.
Oh,
and but he posted he was interested in that question. Okay, how about you, Dhakhar? Since he's not here.
Yeah, we do have some funny stories. With so many people having played the adventure map, we kind of ended up with a massive range of interpretations of things we might write. So we often tried to not give such a like blunt on the nose explanation of, you need to go here, open this chest, get the thing, go over to the other thing. You know, we tried to make it in universe and lore friendly with our descriptions of what to do. But that means some people interpreted it way different than we were expecting. And one of the really funny ones for us was just a little camp on the side of the road where some bandits had sailed and met their end to a troll. Nothing too important, but some people, with the way the notes were written, thought that they were supposed to then take the bandits' raft and sail off way to the east looking for something. So most people just went there, grabbed what was there in the chest, looted the bodies, and carried on. But then we got sent a screenshot of someone who'd grabbed the raft and just gone sailing way out to the east, you know, way off the intended course.
Yeah.
That was really funny for us to see. And a lot of things like that opened our eyes to trying to consider more what the player might do, more than just what we intended.
Yeah. Awesome. Lit Girl, does modding the game ruin the real Valheim experience?
I really don't think so. I've played it pretty extensively, modded and unmodded, and you can make the game entirely different. I know people talking about the Raft mod and such earlier, and the Crumb Pack, that was really fun too. But I think that the majority of mods, at least for this game, seem to kind of really respect the base game and just want to enhance it. 99% of the mods we use are basically quality of life mods.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Just
you sort of have that
more
range,
options.
right? Like you can get some that just add some quality of life and maybe a couple little extra things, or you can go crazy and turn it into a whole different game.
Yeah, like you can text Azu and say, hey, I want blue carpet.
Well, so one of the other questions I really wanted to ask you was how custom worlds in particular, like the ones that the modders have given us the tools to build, how does that allow for better storytelling?
Oh my God. It's
Yeah.
one of those things where you can actually emulate what's in your mind and put it into a screen and have your friends touch it and tell you like various feedbacks, like, and of course loopholes. We have a very technically correct community, so dear God, when you word things, word them specifically, because your friends will make mayhem of your efforts. And good for them, because but it's one of those things where you can decide you want to have right now we have a community going on like a dwarven themed mining expedition group. And it's a very narrow thing. So there's lots of rules involved with it, but you can make anything. You can do a casino world. You could do a vacation world. You can do a PvP world, cough, cough. There's lots you can do with it. Just keeps the game fresh and gives you new ways of interacting with bosses, with mobs, with each other, etc. It's really cool.
Do you have a couple of do you have a couple of favorite mods that you think help you with the storytelling? Like 2 or 3? Or maybe even there's just one that like you think is like, this mod I need to help me do storytelling in Valheim.
Almost always plant everything. I like Gizmo. I like the quality of life mods, like for example, craft from containers, etc. But things that you need to find the mod pack that matches what your goals are. So like there are seasons mod packs for us, for example, we're using the winter mod in that one. You can do backpacks if you want to be like more of a nomad type. There's lots of mods for your concept. You just got to spend a little bit of time looking at them.
Yeah. Well, let me jump over to JP because he's been sitting there patiently, even though he's been hosting with us. And thank you for doing that, JP. So mods, immersive worlds, like what got you into it, and what do you like to, what do you like about it, and what do you want to do in the future, maybe even with them?
Well, there's been some changes that I'm trying to bring to people's attention regarding modding, because before it was more client-side focused because you basically had to do that. Whereas thanks to Yair, which Azumatt introduced earlier, a modder who's produced crazy tools that are incredibly useful and has really expanded Valheim and made it available. Yair is as much to blame for the love of Valheim as Irongate. Like, honestly, he has done so much for so many people. Yes. But one of the things he did recently was release Expand World Prefabs, which allows you to make the server reacts to things players do by spawning anything that's already in the game without the client needing any mods. So we've entered this new era where it is now possible to make a modded server that is fully vanilla compatible, and the person who joins doesn't even know. They could literally just browse your server and join it. Yeah. And so it's really hard to wrap the mind around what that means, because there's so many mods that now can be handled actually by your server having a little script on it. So what I've been obsessed with is this notion. I played Valheim. I love it. I have a lot of respect for Irongate. They designed Valheim like a board game that's intended to end. That specific part is a design choice. So I'm not saying they've made the wrong decision or anything. I'm just saying that's the reality of it, right? So when you want to make a world that lasts and is really immersive, you have to react to this part of Valheim, this reality that there's a boss progression and all that. So I've been getting involved with this and just playtesting and experimenting on how to tweak mechanics. And really, the thing I try and keep in mind is when you're playing, you notice things that stop you from feeling it, So you make a list, and then you use scripts to try and alleviate the concerns that come up. And as LitGirl mentioned, it's just like modding. You have to know what your intention is, because everybody's servers are different. Your intention of a vanilla server might be different than another's. So through this process of working with your players, you and your players can shape a world that handles the things you don't like through your community. And it's amazing. It really, really, really helpful stuff.
Yeah. So many games out there you play, there's just not the ability to even get in and make the game your own. And something about the way they've designed Valheim and the modders who have come out to help, tweak it, we can really make it our own. But let's jump over to Azumatt. What's been the biggest challenge and obstacle so far? And how do you tackle those obstacles?
Yeah, so I think biggest challenge is remaining unique. Valheim has been out for a very long time. Ideas are more or less going to be the same depending on your approach. You know, almost everybody, if you do a PvP server, you're going to have some sort of arena. Most of the time, that arena is going to be a coliseum, like gladiator type. And that's the biggest challenge is, do you build that? Do you take the time to sit there and build something that's probably been built 50 times over? Or do you try to do something unique? Like recently, I saw somebody that built a PvP arena that is actually a portal to a two-sided area that's outside of the map. And it's floating in midair. They're using mods to make sure that the structural integrity is fine. And basically your goal is to kick someone off and either that or kill them. And they fall off the edge of the world, they die, they come back, and you know, you have a cycle. It's kind of like a king of the hill thing instead of a gladiator. You know, remaining unique is very difficult. But I think if you take it and you look at some of the ideas and piece them together from other people, or really looking at what a mod can do, looking into the documentation, you might find yourself making something unique without realizing it. If you just start with like a simple idea, you go through and you're like, oh, well, I want to play a nomad run, for instance. You've got a custom unique world that you've built all these paths and you've done things. But if you're like Morning Darkness likes to do nomad runs. She installed Crafty Carts Remake, and now she's saying that all of my resources are in these carts. I don't have a base. And then she just plops things down and is running through, and it's her and her friends playing on stream and doing things. And that's a unique world. You know, that's a unique way to experience it. And it's so simple. Like you don't have to have a million mods to do things like that. But if you come across a way or an idea that someone says, I want to play this, like your user base, your friends, your streamer buddies, whatever, I want to play this way, or this is the way I like to play. Finding a mod or finding a way to incorporate that in a vanilla manner to tweak on their play style is better. Take a look at some of the mod packs that are out there. You know, see what mods they're using. Look into their configurations, and see how they're trying to be unique, and really just take your own spin on it. You know, I'm not saying copy paste or anything like that, but I'm definitely saying, you know, get some ideas, find the inspiration, and that's the biggest way that you could probably tackle a lot of these challenges. Is look at what everyone else is doing around you. You know, keep your friends close, your enemies closer. Like your competition is the other servers, and look at what they're doing. That's the fastest way to make your server unique, is take a look at what they're doing and how you might be able to do something similar, without completely stealing their idea.
Yeah. And to add to what you're saying, because people use mods to give them a new experience, you know, because you have the standard Valheim, so you're looking for a new experience. I get, over the last 4 years, I've gotten so many people reach out to me and say, Jirok, what mods do I want? You know, what should I download? And the first thing I say is, look, pick like 2 or 3 that you think will make it an interesting experience for your next playthrough. Don't go and download the 30 that look good.
Yeah.
Pick a couple to make it your own, especially if you have a small group of friends, you got a server, so much easier to manage just a few mods, you know, with the updates and the changes and the glitches and all that stuff, and they're not conflicting and everything. But even just one mod, 2 or 3, they can really create a whole unique experience for you that you don't need to worry about 30 mods. You don't need all those to have an amazingly different experience.
We use 3 mods on one of our theme servers, and that's it. It's Gizmo, Plant Everything, and then Item Stand. And it is amazing with those 3 mods.
It changed everything for you, right?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. So Dhakhar, let me ask you that same question. What's been the biggest challenge and obstacle so far, and how have you tackled them?
The most recurring theme for us when we're doing our creation in the adventure map is, what can we do with the limitations available? With the way we created that world, it only works with things that can be saved into the data of the world, the objects themselves, the creatures, etc. So that is a huge limitation for us. And one of the big problems for a long time was the mechanic we have when you defeat a boss. So when you normally play the game and you defeat a boss, it gives you a message when you defeat them, like Moda cries no more. I can't remember what it is. It's been too long. But we could alter that text. And so we decided to use that text to give the player a portal password. So they then get that portal password when they beat the boss, put it into the portal, and they go to Moda's loot room or wherever it might be. The problem was that text from the boss could get overwritten by any other text that can appear there. So world save in 30 seconds, you are freezing, you could use another bite to eat. So between that and then people just not expecting that to happen when they kill the boss, so many people missed it. They kill the boss and they give a huge sigh of relief and look away. And then, oh, what was that? And we had no way to give them that information again. So that was a huge problem with people coming to the Discord and saying, oh, I missed it. I killed Ike there, but I didn't see the word. And then finally we stumbled upon the idea that we could use the same kind of thing with the boss stones. When you hang up the actual trophy onto the hook, it also displays the message. So if we just put a boss stone in the arena with Ike there, they kill him, hang up his trophy, there's the message. And we could even make it so they can take off the trophy and put it back on to display the message multiple times if they miss it again. And that eluded us for so long, that solution with the boss stones. And then it just came to 9by actually. He was like, can't we use these? Can't we do something with these? And 5 minutes of investigation later, it solved our problem out of nowhere, seemingly. And then I had a kind of similar situation in the Expand World Prefabs project I'm doing, which is a Helldivers themed overhaul. And
I've heard about that one.
Yeah, so it's kind of a mad idea. And the first thing I created for it was the call-in. So you throw the smoke grenade, it makes a beacon, and the bomb comes down. The first kind of iconic part of Helldivers. So the second part, to determine, can I actually make something out of this? We need the player to be able to hell dive. They need to spawn in the air and land on the ground, because if they can't do that, it's not really Helldivers. And fall damage, it turns out, goes through everything. It's like pure damage. So it goes through damage resistance, it goes through the goblin shield, the magic shield, all of that. So all of the seemingly obvious solutions to how to make the player safely spawn in the air and land on the ground were kind of evasive. And I got a lot of help from Yera's Discord, where lots of people, including Rakar and JP, were putting their heads together to think of how can we overcome this. And we knew that the one kind of way to give invulnerability to the player was with the state you get when you drop off the Valkyrie. When you join the game for the first time, you get dropped by the bird. You don't take any damage. And we eventually figured out that you could get the player into that state using a chair, of all things. So just a crazy hunting sequence of how can we pin together a few different weird things of the game, but we got there in the end.
Wow, it's so amazing what we're able to do these days.
Yeah,
I want to ask you, JP, also about that. What have been some of the biggest challenges and obstacles, and how have you tackled them?
With DWP, that's an easy question to answer, and it's the fact that people think they're playing Valheim. So they're going to try and play Valheim when they play your Valheim, and you have to keep that in mind. You can give them a different option, but they aren't going to take it at first. One, they might not know about it. Two, they might perceive it's gimmicky or have some judgment about it. So you literally have to teach them through how they play, knowing they're going to try and play Valheim. So they're going to join, they're going to see the center of the world, and they're going to look at those boss stones. And if there's too many of those boss stones, they leave. Because in their head, the game's over. They missed it. So if you want to have a server that's immersive, you need people to be able to join, immediately know something's different. But then as they go and keep trying to play Valheim, you meet them. You make the server react. So I'll give a quick example. On Path of Magic, we've reworked the progression system. So you don't kill bosses to progress. Bosses are pushed to the end mid-game experience, and they're all way, way, way harder. The idea is like, you're out of the meadows, but you haven't even killed Eek yet. Like, It's just to give that feeling, right? So we have to give an alternative, because how do you get the progression items? So instead, you find the boss altar, and there's a chest, and the chest has like text on it, and it tells you, I need these things. You go put the things in the chest, and boom, you get a reward. It's like a quest, basically. And that's all totally vanilla friendly, done with EWP. So that's the main thing. The obstacle is you have to remember that, yes, they know your world is different, but they don't know how all the features work. And oftentimes they won't even believe you or listen to you if you tell them. So you have to make part of the script educating the player about the mechanic when they try and use the normal vanilla mechanic. Make sense?
It sounds like you're doing game design.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's what this all is. It's like, especially once you get into scripting, if you're managing a server, you're doing game design. You have to, because otherwise, how do you keep your server worth logging into?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Cool. We're getting short on time. I just got one more question, and I'm going to throw it at Azumatt because he showed some interest in it. But you guys feel free, if you're inspired by something that this question presents, to jump in. Azumatt, what process do you use to plan and organize your work from the world as a whole to individual events and guests or quests?
Sorry. So I touched on it earlier, but like looking at the competition, but the process is I like to use the simple tools, keep it simple and push forward. So paint, snippet, take a screenshot of your map. Where do you want like your events? Are they going to be in the map? Are they going to be in the plains, the meadows, outside of the world, if you have a mod that allows that? Or, where are you actually going to put your locations? Most everybody's going to spawn at the center unless you have it configured for some other reason, random spawns or what have you. What we did on the Smooth Brain server a while back was we actually planned it all out to where we had set spawn points for everybody in specific meadows. So you had spawn 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when you spawned in, you could choose which starting area or starting point that you wanted to be at. And a lot of people, they thought that they were choosing the easiest little island, and turns out it wasn't, and that's part of the reason is we wanted it to look that way. We wanted to say, my plan is this one looks easy, but let's make all the enemies around that specific area twice as hard. So if you chose that spawn point, like, it's a little bit of a challenge for you versus, if you chose spawn point 4, you might have had a little bit of easier time, or spawn point 3 with more resources. And most of the time that just comes down to me highlighting an area in paint and saying, I want it here, 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 and here. Here's the spawn points, and I can map it out similar to what we're doing on the event server. We have everything outlined with all the islands and map pins and things like that. And then of course, going into the world, seeing what the terrain looks like for that area, is that even feasible? And what that's going to look like. So a lot of it is paying attention to not only what you have available as far as the mods and what the mods can do, but also making sure that you're planning ahead of time for how you're going to lay this out. Like, this might be your idea, and you might have a nice little screenshot of the map and it looks like it fits there, but you get there and there's, I don't know, 50 boars, or there might be a rune stone there that's obviously not on the map that spawns the boars when you interact with it, or there might be a dungeon in that space. So now you're facing these challenges, and it's really a multitude of trying to figure out where stuff is while trying to map out your world. And it comes down to making sure that you're taking notes, making sure that you're marking your map and it looks like a 5-year-old took a crayon to it and was just going all over the whole process. But also, if you have a community, if you're a streamer, making sure you're listening to the stuff that they want. So trying to incorporate that into your ideas and plan. I really like to use Discord's forum features for bug reports, but also for organizing my own thoughts. Kind of like a to-do if I don't want to do sticky notes or I don't want to do anything else, because I live in Discord, and that's where a lot of my community and people interact with me. So I tend to keep everything all in one place, and that's kind of what I've used as far as tasks. It allows me to share screenshots, files, whatever. And I keep it simple. As I said, I use Discord, I use Paint, and I use the built-in Windows snippet, and just go to town. I take screenshots and I mark it up like a 5-year-old.
I do a bit more I do more like word stuff. So I'll do like a whole document of because we do story, right? So I'll this last one, we're just being fools and it's very fun. But I put on the persona of a merchant and I tell them what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do, if they got a permit or not. So there's a lot more text behind ours. They have to submit or to go to the next biome. If they don't have the biome, or there's no next biome for you. So, and there's fines if they screw up and little silly things. It's ridiculous, but there's a lot more literature back. I mean, hi, look, roll it up. There's a lot more words behind it. So I have spreadsheets of things what the food's worth, what the market values are, if they want to trade stuff. We're nerds.
Yeah.
No defense.
Well, that's how you're setting up a world with, restrictions and guidelines to create a different experience than the standard Valheim. So you're creating your own fun. Yeah. Well, so we actually have a couple of extra minutes because our live event is slightly delayed. So I have a question that I want to throw around to all of you, just briefly, just a couple of minutes, because we hopefully will get that live event going here soon. But let me start with Dhakhar, and I'll just go all the way around everybody. Dhakhar, can you just tell us one of the things that you're planning in the future that you have not delved in yet to, something you want to do, but you haven't figured out how to do it, or you kind of know how to do it, but you just haven't started it, and you're not, you haven't, maybe there's a new mod, or maybe there's old mods, current mods that you're going to use for it?
That's a good question. Most of the things, yeah, most of the things at the moment are things I know how to do, and I just have got so many of them to do. So there's a lot of those. I would say if there's something I'm looking to dive into, one of Yera's latest additions is expand world code, and I have no coding experience in C#, but there's certain things we can do now doing it, and that's a complete wide scary ocean for me looking at. It's an endless sea of possibility, and I have no idea what's out there, so that might be something I delve into.
Nice. How about you, Lit Girl? What's something that you want to do for your world with mods, or with your parameters that you set for everybody to make it an interesting experience that you haven't done yet?
Well, so I kind of want to make the Infernal Library. I have a whole library theme. It's a thing. I do build comps around it. And the one thing we've always found, except for we use Clutter right now to use books. I want more books and scrolls and runes, and to be able to build something in the world that is Dantean, but that's again just super nerd. So it was to just see more modding that allows us to do more custom content. It would be really cool to have a mod that lets us change the color of stuff in the game. I bugged Azu, and I love you so much, buddy. You're the best. I was like, hey, I really want the big red carpet to be big and blue. Can you do that? He's like, yeah. So I'd like to be able to do that myself. Give me a color wheel that I can have a paintbrush or something and poke at something and be like, hey, look, I found these. Even make me use berries. So more custom content based on build styles that the user can cause influence to, as opposed to me having to be like, Azu, hey, every time. Poor Azu. I love you though.
Nice. What about you, Azumatt? What's something that you're looking forward to doing that's I know everybody has a huge wish list and they send it to you probably, but what's something you're really interested in?
To be perfectly honest with you, I don't really have one.
Well, you have so many mods.
Yeah, my current goal, honestly, is to figure out what other people want to experience with the game. Because at this point, I've seen the game in and out, code, assets, things like that. I don't have the time that I wish that I did to play on other people's servers. I want to see what their ideas are. I want to see what they're working with, and how they want to handle things. Because for me, that's kind of like hitting the refresh button on a lot of the things. I can get inspired. A lot of the stuff that I've made, a lot of the mods that I've made, honestly come from the fact that I've played other games. I've played and seen how they work, and I realized that Valheim's missing those kind of things. So for me, I don't really have anything that I want to put into the world at the moment. My goal when I sit at my computer is make improvements to my mods. Make as much as I possibly can to be better. And if I was to get into a world right now, I think I would make it easier to you know, as Lit Girl was saying, like to customize the existing stuff. We have
Yeah.
everything that allows us to rotate it, move it, resize it, things like that, but not really anything that allows you to walk up to it and say, I want that blue,
Yeah.
you know, I want
Make
that
it
green, or I want this to be, but keep the same asset, you know, and without having to go out and, you know, bug a modder to create all these different things that are already in the game. So I think that for me, experiencing it from other people's eyes is what I would bring into the world at the moment. Because currently I don't have anything that I want to build. You know, I don't
Yeah.
have anything that I can bring to the table that is
Was there one request
different.
that you saw it and you thought, you know what, out of all these requests, that one sounds fun to tackle?
Mm.
Do you have
So
that yet? You have a huge list. It might be hard.
I do. I watch a lot of streamers. You know, you might see me pop in, pop out. I do a lot of lurking. So whether I talk or not, you know, you may or may not know that I'm there. But I've been watching. There's a buddy of mine that lives out in Ireland. His name's Rozzy the Insane. I watch his streams, and one of his ideas is very good. He wants an eternal winter. So we've got the seasons mods, we've got the stuff that allows us to change seasons, but we don't have one that sticks you in one. And he wanted to basically change the entire game around winter. And saying, you know, now, like, yeah, sure, you have stamina release, but like he wanted custom armors, custom things to bring into the game to change the way that works, just because it's cold, you know, and because it's cold, you aren't going to see mushrooms on the ground. You know, how do you incorporate stuff like that? How do you make it to where you plant it? And we've talked about it. I don't want to spoil it a whole lot because it's his server and it's where he wants to go for his ideas, but you know, create very creative ideas like that. And I'm actually tackling that for him at the moment.
Cool.
So I'm enjoying that a lot. And then I've got so many things that I'm also trying to juggle that all of them are good ideas, and that's part of my problem. That's why I have so many mods, because I love making mods. And right now that one's got my attention, but I do still have a lot of things that I'm working on. But that one was the biggest one that stood out recently, is like forcing someone to be in a winter and how that works. You know, do we reduce their stamina? Do we make it to where deers spawn more often so you have more meat? You know, things like that.
Oh, interesting.
And vice versa.
Cool.
Because the seasons mod, you can set it, but there's so many like limitations. Kind of like I like it, I'm not mad. It's beautiful, but even like little kerfuffles. I'm not a pro modder at all. Please, the kerfuffle of not realizing that you actually really did need to turn off the ice flows for a day or two, or else they're all just going to continue freaking stacking. That's not fun for your frame rate. Anyway, you learn, you live, you learn, you mod, you fail, you continue.
Well, let me ask JP real quick before we run out. JP, I know you're diving head first into the cool stuff that can be done with mods. If there were one thing that you could pick to say, like, I want to eventually do this, you know, for the server, for the players, for myself, what would it be?
Okay. So definitely Path of Magic is the thing I've been working on, using this, tackling the problems I see, players see in Valheim, our interpretation of how to solve them, right? But there's eras in this, because you can't just try and solve everything at once. You have to focus on certain areas, right? And the thing I'm excited about is reworking a lot of the boss fights so that every time you do a boss fight, it's different. And some of the other bosses can, like, every minute there's a chance for another boss to show up and help for like a minute or whatever, and then they leave. And the idea is these endgame boss fights, it's almost impossible to properly incentivize a reward for them because they occur at the end of the game. So any reward you have is likely to just invalidate other rewards you have in your server. So I'm trying to focus on making the experience itself something that's genuinely fun and interesting to do with other people, where you don't really know what's going to happen, and it's really, really challenging. So it can be like, we survived for 4 minutes. We survived for 4 minutes and 30 seconds. You know, like, that's the attitude. So that's what I'm excited about, is that era of Path of Magic, where I've sort of finished up all the polishing other mechanical stuff. And I can focus on making the boss fights just as interesting and as variable as possible. So you can do 10 and then do an 11th and you're like, whoa, that one was impossible, or like, how did that happen? And to make it fun somehow. That's the idea.
Well, guys, this has been awesome. I hope it inspired people to check out, maybe mods to create something special for their own server, for their own single player, or maybe check out some of the great servers out there that are already doing that hard work. And thanks again. And we're going to